All right, welcome back. Today, we are cracking open the heart of every single electric vehicle, the battery. Now, you might think a battery is just a battery, right? But it turns out the actual shape of the battery cell is one of the most critical, high-stakes decisions an automaker can make. We're going to find out why the geometry of a battery is one of the biggest gambles in the entire industry right now.
I mean, it seems like a pretty logical question, doesn't it? If you want to power a whole car, why not just build one giant AA battery? But as we're about to discover, when you get into the world of EVs, it's just not that simple. The engineering involved is way more complex and, frankly, way more fascinating than just scaling things up.
You see, that's because the shape of that tiny cell changes, well, everything. We're talking cost, power, safety, even how many miles you can drive on a single charge. Choosing a battery shape has nothing to do with how it looks. It's this massive engineering puzzle, a game of trade-offs. And right now, every car maker is placing a huge bet on which shape is going to give them the ultimate edge.
Okay, so let's meet the main players in this high-stakes game. We're going to break down the four dominant battery designs, the heavy hitters all competing to power the future of driving.
First up, we've got the one you probably know best, the cylindrical cell. And yeah, think of it just like a regular AA battery or even a soup can. Inside, its guts are basically this long sheet of battery materials all rolled up tight. They literally call it a jelly roll, and then stuffed into a tough metal cylinder.
So, what's the deal with these? Well, the pros are pretty obvious. They are super strong, they're cheap to make, and they're really mature technology. But the big con? It's their shape. Think about trying to pack a box full of cans. You always end up with all that wasted space in between. That's a huge issue for car designers. Plus, those gaps make it really tricky to cool the battery pack evenly.
All right, next up in the ring is the prismatic cell. Now this one takes a totally different approach. Instead of that jelly roll, it stacks its battery materials in flat layers, almost like the pages in a thin hardcover book. And the whole point of this design is to solve that wasted space problem we just talked about.
And that's the prismatic superpower. They're incredibly space efficient. You can pack them together super tightly, just like books on a shelf, which is awesome. They're also a perfect match for the newer LFP chemistry. That's lithium iron phosphate, which is a huge deal because it's cheaper and safer. But there's a catch. They're not as mechanically strong as cylinders, and they have this tendency to swell up a bit over time.
Okay, our third contender is the pouch cell, and this one is pretty wild. It takes a completely different, almost radical approach because it gets rid of the hard metal case entirely. You can think of it like a juice pouch, really. It's just these flexible layers of battery goodness sealed inside a thin, foil-like wrapper.
So, by ditching the heavy case, pouch cells become the featherweights of the battery world. They're super lightweight and flexible, which is great for design and efficiency, but that flexibility is also their biggest weakness. They're really fragile, almost squishy, so they need a lot of extra structural support inside the battery pack. And just like prismatic cells, they can swell up with gas, which is definitely a safety issue you have to manage.
And that brings us to the new challenger on the block, the blade battery. Now, this isn't a totally new idea from scratch. It's a really clever evolution of the prismatic cell. Imagine taking that book-shaped prismatic, stretching it out so it's super long and thin, like a blade, and then arranging those blades in a whole new configuration.
Honestly, this is the one everybody is watching right now. Why? Because its unique design allows for something called cell-to-pack construction. That means you can skip a whole bunch of packaging and build the cells directly into the car's structure, saving a ton of space and weight. It's also proven to be incredibly safe, like top-of-the-class safe, and super cost-effective. The only real downside? It's still the new kid on the block, so the technology isn't quite as mature.
Okay, so we've met our contenders. Now it's time for the main event, a head-to-head showdown. To make this a fair fight, researchers ran simulations putting all these different battery types into the exact same car, the super popular Tesla Model Y, to see how they really stack up in a direct apples-to-apples comparison.
Round one is all about weight. The question is simple. If you have a battery pack that weighs exactly 530 kilograms, which shape can you cram the most energy into? We're pitting a standard cylindrical cell against a prismatic and a really advanced pouch cell. And wow, look at that. The next-gen pouch cell is the hands-down winner,
packing an incredible 53% more energy for the exact same weight. For you, that can mean a huge leap in driving range.
Okay, round 2 is about size. Forget weight for a second. If you have a fixed box, say 400 liters, which battery shape packs the most power inside? This time, that advanced pouch cell goes up against both the old and the new, much-hyped 4680 cylindrical cell. And once again, the pouch cell takes the top spot. But look closely, that new 4680 cylindrical is a massive improvement over the old one, showing just how fast this tech is moving.
But hold on, because this is where the entire story flips on its head. Round 3, cost. This is the big one, right? To build a standard 82 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which one is the cheapest? And look at that. The Blade battery comes out of nowhere and just dominates. It costs an estimated $5,500. That is less than half the price of the current cylindrical battery. This isn't just a small improvement. This is a potential game changer for making EVs affordable for everyone.
So, after that incredible showdown, what's the final verdict? Well, the researchers took all these different factors, weight, size, cost, safety, and crunched the numbers to create a final scorecard. Let's see who wins.
And here it is, the final scorecard. The numbers really tell the story here. When you combine everything we've talked about, the Blade battery just pulls ahead, getting the top score for both an economy car and a performance car. But it's not a total blowout. You can see the cylindrical cells are still scoring really high, especially in that performance category, showing they are still a fantastic choice.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that there's no single best battery for every single car. It all depends on what you're trying to build. If you want a screaming fast performance car, the proven power and strength of cylindrical cells are tough to argue with. If you're building a simple, affordable city car, a pouch cell might be the perfect fit. But that Blade battery? It comes incredibly close to being the do-it-all champion, with top marks pretty much across the board.
But wait, just when you think you've seen all the contenders, there's a wildcard entry. A revolutionary idea on the horizon that could completely rewrite the rules of the game.
So what if you could get rid of that big, heavy battery pack altogether? I mean, completely. That is the incredible promise of something called structural batteries. The idea is to merge the battery right into the car's frame. So the chassis, the floor, the doors, they don't just hold the battery, they are the battery.
And that really leaves us with a wild final thought. For years, the entire industry has been focused on one thing. How do we build a better battery to fit inside a car? But maybe, just maybe, the real breakthrough isn't about the battery at all. What if the future is about turning the car itself into the battery? Now that is a question that could change absolutely everything.